What up? Welcome to First Person Perspective. My name is Anthony Shelton. This is the first episode, and it's cool because I'm starting just before E3. What a time to start a podcast, huh? Got some fun topics to talk about on this episode. I've been playing Destiny 2, and I want to talk about the problems with Crucible bounties and what's up with Nintendo and waiting to reveal the Switch Pro. I don't know why they're waiting. But first, here's my big topic of the week. There is big news. That news, God of War, the sequel to God of War 2018, is delayed into 2022. We don't have a month, but it's delayed into 2022. But that's not what people are talking about. No. What people are talking about is the fact that God of War, Ragnarok is what it's apparently called, is also coming to the PlayStation 4. Yeah. You didn't see that one coming. Nobody saw that coming. It's because Sony kind of pulled an okie doke on it. Kind of. Not to mention, this is also happening to Gran Turismo 7. That game is also delayed into 2022. And that game was actually advertised as a game coming to PlayStation 5 exclusively, but now that game is also coming to PlayStation 4. Yeah, that's a problem. So, before I understood some details, I was going to defend Sony's decision a little bit because it's fine. In one sense, it's okay for them to put the game multi-plat. Now, yes, from a PlayStation 5 owner and just from next-gen experience, we totally get the idea that if you are going to make a game for PlayStation 5 and that hardware is significantly different and better and it actually can change the gaming experience, then yes, putting it on the older platform is going to hold that new experience back. So why would you do that? Especially as everybody is bringing up Jim Ryan talking about we believe in generations, and not in the sense of we believe in cross-platform generations. No, he mentions that as if we believe in generations. We believe in moving on from one generation to the next and taking advantage of that next-gen hardware. That won't be happening with God of War and Gran Turismo 7. And so they kind of lied to us by omission, because apparently Sony knew God of War was going to be on the PlayStation 4. Now, in the case of Gran Turismo 7, it seems like that was a decision recently made that they were going to put it on the PlayStation 4. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with that decision in and of itself. It's the fact that they led us to believe, by not communicating directly to us, that these games are coming to the PlayStation 4. It's a calculated risk on Sony's part. They knew what they were doing. They knew God of War, the sequel to the 2018 one, God of War Ragnarok, was probably going to go on the PlayStation 4. Perhaps they were hoping they didn't have to put it on the PlayStation 4. That's entirely feasible, I think. Perhaps the same thing with Gran Turismo 7. But circumstances have changed, and they decided, nah, I think we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to put these games on the PlayStation 4. But they didn't tell nobody until now. And yet these PlayStation consoles have been sold. They have been marketing the idea that these games were coming exclusively to the PlayStation 5. They've been leading you to believe, trying to generate hype for the PlayStation 5 so that you go out and buy a PlayStation 5 when it's available. Did they think there would be backlash? Absolutely, they thought there was going to be backlash. But let me ask you this. Are you not going to buy a PlayStation 5 because of this? No. Are you not going to buy their games? Are you not going to buy God of War Ragnarok? Are you not going to buy Gran Turismo 7 if that's your thing? So that's the problem. Like, what recourse can there be against Sony for doing this? For lying to us? It's lying by omission. You could consider it a white lie, whatever you want to call it. It's still a lie. They still deceived us. And there's nothing we can do about it. What are we going to do? Just be super skeptical about everything that they say now? And then what? So what? Because here's the thing. If Sony decides to do this again, but then they deliver, what is there to argue? Let's say God of War Ragnarok is still super dope on the PlayStation 5. What are we going to say? Of course we're going to forgive them. We're going to move on. Funny thing is, this isn't the first time they've done this. In a similar situation, not quite the same, but they did it with the reveal of the PlayStation 5. They didn't explicitly say that these games were going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5, but they didn't also say anywhere, not even in fine print, that these games were coming to the PlayStation 4 until after the reveal event of the PlayStation 5. Remember, PlayStation 5 reveal event happens. One of the marquee games that they showed was Miles Morales. After the event was over, hours later, we learned from reports that Miles Morales was coming to the PlayStation 4. What? You knew what that meant. It wasn't going to take advantage of this next-gen hardware that Jim Ryan was advertising during the PlayStation 5 reveal event. Is it a big deal in and of itself? Not really. No. Can they do that? Yes, absolutely. Totally fair. But unlike Microsoft, who has detailed, we're going to have to make these games cross-gen, or we're going to make these games cross-gen, and they got lit up for it. Sony was like, nah, we're not going to let them know. We're going to try to push the envelope as far as we can without having to tell anybody, because we don't want to mess up the hype train. We are all about that hype train, because if we mess up that hype train, people are not going to buy PlayStation 5 consoles, because if they learn that these games are also coming to the PlayStation 4, then that's less reason to buy a PlayStation 5 day one or month one, whatever, first year. There's going to be, 3 or 4 games that are going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5. The biggest one is probably Ratchet and Clank, which that game looks fantastic, and it does look like it's going to take advantage of the hardware because it is exclusive to the PlayStation 5. These other games will not be. So I can imagine there are some of you who are looking at your PlayStation 5 and you're like, when am I going to get something? Maybe you're not that interested in Ratchet and Clank. Maybe you are. Doesn't matter. When are you going to get something? When is there going to be a significant amount of PlayStation 5 IPs that you'll be able to play exclusively on the PlayStation 5 that take advantage of that wonderful SSD that it has? You're not going to get that. So Sony is willing to risk their reputation to get you hyped. Because if they deliver, so what? Who cares? Who cares if they lie to you a little bit? Because if they lie to you, it only matters if they don't deliver. The problem is, Sony doesn't plan on not delivering. So that's good on your part if you're a PlayStation person. But the thing is, if Sony doesn't deliver, this is going to hit them hard. This is going to hit them real hard. But Jim Ryan and all the Sony folk are 100% in agreement that Sony's not going to fail on this. They will deliver. And honestly, if you look at the studio Sony's at, there's not a lot of chance that they're going to fail, which is good, but still, how much longer are they going to keep playing with you? That's my question. I don't know how much longer you guys could put up with this. I don't think it's fair at all. So I'm sure you've heard the rumors. The Nintendo Switch Pro is real, according to multiple sources, but unconfirmed by Nintendo. The Nintendo Switch Pro is real. Or is it? Like, we got to wait until next Tuesday to find out, potentially. I don't know why Nintendo just doesn't come out and tell us. Like, why are we overthinking this? Businesses tend to do this. They tend to overthink what the fans want. Sometimes the fans are just telling them what they want. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what the fans want. But sometimes it's pretty dang easy. And in this case, it's pretty dang easy. The fans want to know, is the Nintendo Switch Pro real or not? Nintendo's not saying anything. They haven't debunked it. They haven't confirmed it. Now, in the past, they have debunked a couple of months, not even a couple of months ago, many months ago. Nintendo denied that the the Switch Pro was a thing. Now, they're not saying anything, which I think you and I would agree that tends to make us believe that it is a real thing. They just don't want to say anything. But if it's a real thing and the rumors are already out, then why are you waiting to tell us? Why would you do that? So that way we go through this agonizing circle of like, is it real? Is it not? Is it real? Is it not? It's like, pulling the flowers. Nintendo Switch Pro is real. Nintendo Switch Pro is not. Nintendo Switch Pro is real. Like, just tell us. What do you have to lose at this point? Is there some like financial gain? Like, do your stocks go up if you wait until Tuesday to do it? Is your financial quarter ending June 14th or 15th? Like, what is happening? Just tell us, Nintendo. There's no harm in telling us now. Now, the only reason that I think Nintendo would wait is so that way they can dominate the end of E3 discussion. That's the only thing, because June 15th is pretty much the end. Otherwise, I don't think there's any reason to hold out. But even if they told us now, they still have all the stuff for the Nintendo Direct that would coincide with the Nintendo Switch Pro. So what's the problem? Imagine if they told us today. Just imagine. Today is Sunday, right? Imagine if they told us today. It would dominate the conversation. It would dominate, absolutely dominate for the rest of E3. Because then we'd be speculating, well, what's going to be in the Nintendo Direct? Oh my gosh, Breath of the Wild 2 has to launch with it. Like, the anticipation would be even greater than waiting for the announcement of the Nintendo Switch Pro. I think so. Maybe you disagree with that, but I feel like that would be the case. Are we going to get a new F-Zero? Are we going to get a new Star Fox? What's going to happen now that we know that this thing is real? And Nintendo's just sitting there like, oh, you guys think you know, but you really don't, but you kind of do. We're just going to play mind games with you. It's like Smash Brothers all over again, all the mind games. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Just tell us. Nintendo. That's all we want. Just put it out there. Maybe they're going to surprise drop it. I don't know. There's too many babies. I don't want to wait until June 15th. I just want to know now. Okay? I think you and I could agree that we just want to know now. But if anything, it better be real. Because if it just turns out that it's just like, yeah, the Nintendo Switch is going to get like 7 new colors. Okay, like, yeah. If it's not Nintendo Switch Pro, if that's not the big announcement, then Nintendo's fired. Like, forget it. Everybody's fired. All the people who with the rumors are fired. Nintendo's fired. Everybody's fired. Like, it has to be the Nintendo Switch Pro, whatever it's going to be called. Or, like, I feel like the entire E3 is just not going to be it. With that said, what do you think it's going to be called? I would like it to be called the Nintendo Switch Advance. Because that's a callback to the Game Boy line of handhelds. The Switch is a handheld, essentially. It's a console first, but it's also a handheld. And Game Boy is what got Nintendo's handheld stuff going in the first place. Like, we do not have the DS if the Game Boy ends up failing. But the Game Boy was a hit. And the Game Boy Advance was, in my opinion, the best Game Boy. Number one, it played all the Game Boy games. Like, from the first one to the Game Boy Advance games, played every single one. There really weren't that many, like, Game Boy Color games, now that I think about it. There were some. I'm thinking about it. Were there that many Game Boy Color games? Maybe not. But some of you aren't even old enough to know what a Game Boy was. Google Game Boy, okay? Also, Google how many of those things sold. Now, I think the Nintendo DS, like the entire line, sold more than the Game Boy. But again, without the Game Boy, without the success of the Game Boy, DS doesn't exist. Nintendo DS or the 3DS I don't think survives. I don't think it makes it. Maybe they come up with it and it still does well. I don't know, but I just don't think it's a thing. But the Game Boy Advance, I feel like, was the best Game Boy, the best handheld, and so I feel like just make it a callback. It's still a new Switch. You know the difference. Switch Advance. Oh, what's that? It's a better version of the Switch. Boom. Just like the Game Boy Advance was a better version of the Game Boy. So I think that would be pretty cool. It's probably not going to be called that, as long as it's not called New Nintendo Switch. If it's not called that, this is already a win. But if it's called that, Nintendo is fired once again. So let me know what you think in the comments. What you think this new Nintendo Switch, or Switch Pro, or Switch Advance, or Super Nintendo Switch, whatever you want to call it. Let me know what you think it's going to be called. So I've been playing Destiny 2, and I'm trying to play it like any dedicated person would. For some reason, I've always been attracted to Destiny 2, but I've never sunk time into it in the same way I have with Borderlands or The Division 2. So this season, the season of the Splicer, I am trying to do everything. Seasonal challenges, get all the bounties, get to the max cap, all that stuff. And so part of that includes doing the Crucible. I got to participate in that if I want that tier 1 powerful, and if I want some of the pinnacles. Problem is, I'm really bad at the Crucible. Like, it feels uncharacteristic, especially coming from a Bungie game. Like in Halo 3, I got a 1.5 KD. Not bad. But in Crucible, it's like 0.73. Like, I just can't wrap my head around how to do well in the Crucible. So, since I got so much trouble doing well in the Crucible, finishing bounties is kind of difficult. And so, I've basically stopped trying to do the bounties for Crucible because it just slows my progress. Apparently, the proper way to level up your light in Destiny 2 is by finishing your tier 1s, then your tier 2s, then your tier 3s, then your pinnacles. That's the most efficient way that I've seen across the YouTubes. And so, if I have to take more time over the course of the week to finish my tier 1s, that's less time for me to do my tier 2s, 3s, and pinnacles. And I don't want to wait for that. So I just skip over the Crucible entirely. And so it made me think, Bungie should really change the way Crucible bounties work for people like myself who are not good at it or it takes forever. So let me give you an example of where the trouble comes from. Here are some current dailies from the day I recorded this. Here's, I think, 4. Opponents defeated, 10. Defeat opponents using Void from any source. Defeat opponents using grenades, which is only 1. Defeat opponents while having zone advantage and control. That was up to 3. So that's the 4 bounties. And then I got some repeatables. Here are those. Defeat opponents using grenades. That's 3. Defeat opponents using arc. Defeat opponents with stasis from any source. Defeat hunters. Defeat opponents using melee. And that's 3. These bounties, in and of themselves, if you're good, probably not that difficult. I'm sure some of you are listening or watching and you're like, yeah, this is easy. It's no big deal. But remember, I have a 0.73 KD. If I need to defeat people with Void specifically, where am I going to get those kills from? Like, I have to play more Crucible than the average person in order to get my bounties done, let alone if I have to use an element that I'm not comfortable with, a super that I'm not comfortable with, a grenade type that I'm not comfortable with. That's going to make it take longer also. If I have to get 3 grenade kills, let alone 1, I need to use the grenade that I'm familiar with. Because if you want to efficiently complete these bounties, whether that's, Gambit or strikes or planet-specific bounties, whatever, like usually you're trying to do some that you can complete at the same time, right? That's not the case for somebody who's got a 0.73 KD. It's not really good and can't seem to wrap their head around getting better at it. Let alone, there's a bounty that is defeat opponents using melee. That's not even the meta right now. There is no room for me to run around and to try to give myself an opportunity to melee somebody. It's just not going to happen. I don't have that. So getting 3 of those, it's going to take forever. Everything's long to mid-range. Where am I going to get a melee? It's not going to happen. So Bungie should change the Crucible bounties. And they should change the Crucible bounties to bounties that simply reward you for playing. That's how it should work. Here's some examples that I have. Survival is one of the tier 1 powerfuls. So there should be a bounty that's win 4 rounds in survival. You win 4 rounds, you basically won, right? The tier 1 powerful that comes back every week, you have to win 7 rounds. So might as well have a bounty that rewards you just for winning a round. And you know what? If you don't win the round, over the course of time, you'll get 4 wins. Some team will carry you. It happens. And maybe you'll even contribute as you continue playing. Another one, capture 10 points in control. It's not hard. And you're simply rewarded for playing. I'm not good at getting kills, but I am good at capturing points. I understand spawn points. I understand rotations. I get that. There's been games that we won because I got a lot of control points because everybody else was doing all the killing, but nobody was really capturing points. You've been in those games where you're like, yo, we're not going to win if we don't actually capture the control points. I was that guy getting the control points. So I can do that. And you know what? If you don't play the Crucible a lot, you can do that too. Defeat 10 people in Rumble. I think that's feasible. Free for all. You can probably hawk some kills. Over time. Over a course of a couple matches. Yeah, you could get some kills. Absolutely. 10 shouldn't be too bad. How about win 3 rounds in elimination? Again, another team can carry you, like in survival. Shouldn't be that difficult. You should be able to do that within a day. But here's another one I feel like should be, regardless. Assist an opponent's defeated in any playlist. That's one thing I get. I get assists. I can't kill nobody, but I do put some damage on folk, and somebody else kills them for me because I'm usually dead before I could kill the person. So reward me for assisting at least. My goodness. I'm sure a lot of us would feel pretty good about having a bounty that you could get some assists. Let that be a repeatable bounty. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, all of this stuff is just to get a tier 1 powerful. Like if we were doing very specific things to get some specific legendary, or some exotic or something, okay, I could get that. But we're just after a tier 1 powerful. We shouldn't have to do something very specific that maybe takes us out of our play style or even puts us at a disadvantage in the way that we play with our teams. Like if you're doing the melee bounty, like you're specifically looking to land melees. Like I don't know if Bungie made that kind of bounty because it's for people who just play Crucible all the time, all day, every day. So eventually they're going to get 3 melees. Same with the grenades. I don't know if that's how they structured it, but it doesn't work for people who don't want to play in the Crucible or for people like myself who's just not good at it. So instead, make the bounties something that rewards us for just playing so we can get the loot. That's what we're after. The loot. Work for it. Play the mode. Of course, like that's the point. You got to play the mode. But that's the thing. Just reward us for playing the mode because we're just trying to get the loot. If Bungie did this, yeah, that will help the non-PvP players or the bad people like myself have more success finishing the bounties and continue playing the game instead of getting frustrated. I don't think that's such a bad idea, yeah? All right, this segment is called Something Ridiculous. The point is, I highlight something ridiculous I found on the internet. That's it. It's just a way to laugh before the beginning of the week. It's just a fun little segment I wanted to add into this. So, maybe to make you feel good about yourself. So this week, there's a woman who is an OnlyFans creator who had a heart attack because she tried dry scooping, which is a trend she found on TikTok. Now, she's okay. She had the heart attack. She's okay. It was a mild heart attack. She learned a lesson. She's like, I'm never going to follow TikTok trends and influencers again. But let me clarify this thing. Dry scooping in this form is ingesting a pre-workout supplement without diluting it with water. So think about that protein supplement you may have, or think about that Crystal Light powder that you might have in your cupboard. Now imagine not adding water, just ingesting it by itself, powder form. Yes, exactly. Like, what the frick? Like, what are you doing? So she has this tingling sensation, eventually leading to a mild heart attack while she was at work. I'm assuming she was doing her OnlyFans work because she described herself as sweating while in a bikini. Which, oh my gosh, like it. Yeah, I don't. Why would you do this? Like, obviously, that's the question. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's exactly why I'm talking about this. I feel like the people who came up with this, the people who decided, I'm going to try this, are people who have done drugs or have been exposed to drugs. Like, you're working because it helps you stay away from drugs. And this was I'm not doing something dangerous, but it's still exhilarating. Like, I just don't understand why you would do something like this. Like, who looks at their pre-workout powder and thought, you know what? Today, I'm going to see what this is like without putting water. Let's just see how this works. Perhaps it's stronger. Like, I feel like you have to have done drugs or have been surrounded by drugs before to even have that thought come into your head. Like, why would you even try this? I feel like I feel sorry for the people who feel like they can't rely on common sense and do things like this. Like when Donald Trump said drinking bleach or injecting bleach would work in stopping the pandemic. And people were like, yeah, I'm going to try that. I'm going to put bleach in my system. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would bleach work now than it did in the past? And in the same way, like, why would ingesting powder without water work now than in the past? I feel like this generation, by the way, the woman was 20 years old, so okay, there's some context. But I feel like this generation of young adults have not gotten the don't try this at home message. Like, I'm 34. If you're older or around my age, you remember growing up, like, it was always like, don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. But we've been in a pandemic and we've been home all the time. So maybe I get the idea that some people want to try stuff at home because they ain't got nowhere else to go. So they just try stuff at home. But no, don't try this at home. Don't try this at all. Like, has this generation not gotten that message? Do we need to bring that back in bold print? Like, does TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever other app, Reddit, like, do they need to put in bold print on their app description pages at the top, don't try this at home? Like, just blanket, don't try this at home. You're like, what? We're like, any of it. Don't try any of it. I just don't understand. Like, for this person, I don't know what she does on her OnlyFans, but why would you even risk doing something that affects your bank? Right? Like, you've never tried this before. You imagine there might be some risks to it. And you make money using your body doing whatever. I don't know what she does, but now you're in the hospital with a mild heart attack. That affects your bread. Like, why would you try something that could potentially affect your bread in a negative way? She was in the hospital, I think, for 4 days. It's 4 days. Oh, no, she couldn't work for 4 days. It's still 4 days you can't do nothing because you wanted to try ingesting something without doing it the way it's not supposed to be done. Like, it's great to take risks at a young age. Like, that is the age you want to take the most risks. That's the time to do it. I'm 34 with a family. I don't have time to take the same kind of risks. It's way too risky at this point to try stuff anymore. But there's still certain risks you just don't take. You don't take risks that could potentially affect your health, right? Like, take smart risks, like potential business ideas, right? You got this dope idea. You don't know if it's going to work. Just try it. Asking someone on a date that you really like. Try it, right? Like, those are the kind of risks you want to take. Trying to get to that esports organization that you've been wanting to play for all the time. Try it. Why not? I don't know. I'm just something ridiculous. That is my something ridiculous for this week. So that concludes the first episode of First Person Perspective. I appreciate you watching or listening. Next week starts E3 for the media, so check back for my reactions over the course of the week to some of the conferences. I won't be able to cover all the conferences. I start my part-time job back up the next week after, so I will miss some, but I'll get to as many as I can. And then next Sunday, we'll have an overall reaction episode and then a bonus reaction episode to cover the Nintendo Direct, since that's happening on Tuesday. That will be out a little bit later, but it'll be out within the first 24 hours. Again, I'll be working my part-time job, so my time will be a little bit tied up. So thanks for checking out this first episode. If you liked it, please tap the thumbs up button, share it with your friends, or, give me your take on the topics that we talked about on this episode. I hope you have an awesome week. I hope all of your E3 dreams come true. I'll talk to you later.